Understand the importance of enterprise. Create a personal business map. These are just some of the key essentials that author Njabulo James Nkosi shares in his book, in his 2019 book, You Are a Business. Treat yourself like one. In the book, Njabulo also offers some fundamental tools and frameworks that are easy to apply for entrepreneurs of all scopes to help in changing their mindset from thinking they are business owners into becoming the business. While the life coach, speaker and distinguished toastmaster is here with us to tell us all about his latest offering. Njabulo, it's great to have you here on the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a
Before we get into your latest offering, let's quickly recap and relook at what the response was to your first book, Inspired Success.
Yeah, so Inspired Success was my first book, launched in 2017, and the premise of that is that people don't understand what success really is. And I detail it by saying success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That means that you're going after what you've always wanted to do, and not because anybody else is telling you to do so. And the reception on that was very good. People said it was good. It was very easy to read, and it was life-changing because it gave them a different perspective on how they're going to look at their lives and their own personal success, because it doesn't make any sense for you to reach the highest levels in leadership and business and finance if that's not something that you've always wanted to do. And if you're living somebody else's life and not your own life according to your own highest values, then it's going to be a challenge. And that was a very good reception from the book, and I had a lot of fun putting it together and coaching some people through the book in order to help transform their lives. So it was a very good first outing.
And what of your latest offering? What can be found in the book, You Are a Business? Treat yourself like one.
Well, the very first thing that you can find in this book is the mindset that you have to take responsibility for your own life, because the struggle that I was finding in my own life and other people that I'd been speaking to, they would always blame the government, the employers, and all these outside forces for their financial, economic, and life situation. Whereas in this book, the premise is that you need to take ultimate and 100% accountability for your own life by treating yourself as a business owner, no matter who pays your salary. Even if you're employed by somebody else, you are still offering your services and your talents to somebody else. And if you are a business, you're creating a system that's going to help and serve many other people. So that's the very first premise in saying, take ownership of yourself, take ownership of your finances, take ownership of your own stuff, your own offerings and services, and be of as much of value to other people than to yourself. So that's what you can find in the book.
And on a practical level, how do we take ownership of ourselves as business people, whether we're working for other people or working for ourselves? How do we start to create that value and holding ourselves personally accountable for our output?
So the very first thing that you need to understand is the importance of being a business owner. That talks about you taking, number one, taking that ownership. And once you have a strong why, because if you have a strong why, the how will take care of itself. So once you understand the importance of treating yourself as a business, the next thing that you can do is to understand that the most important thing in any enterprise or any organization is the customer that you serve. All businesses and all employees are there to serve a customer. So the very first thing is you need to fall in love with your customer, your employer, your employees, and your marketplace first and foremost, because it makes no sense for you to bring something into the marketplace that people don't necessarily want or necessarily need. So that's the very first thing, is for you to find out who it is that you want to serve. And the second thing is to find out what is exactly is it that you're really, really good at and that you're passionate about. And if you're able to marry those two, then you're on the path to creating massive value for another person. And if your focus is serving other people and helping other people, then you're going to take yourself seriously and say, I'm out there to be of service, whether it's at work, whether it's in the marketplace. And that's the very first two steps that you can take in terms of treating yourself as your own business.
Last week we actually had Pablo Fatidis here in studio, and he spoke a lot to us about creating asset value, creating a business that is going to outlast you.
Yes.
And one of the models that I found very interesting is one that focuses on inheritance and how important it is to build that legacy.
Yeah.
What are your reflections on that?
My reflections on that, it makes no sense for you to create something that's going to last for 5 or 10 years and it's no longer here. I mean, it is my personal belief that we're here to leave a legacy that's going to last 100, 200, 400 years from now. And if you look at the biggest businesses in the world, they serve ever greater numbers of people, and they've put systems in place that it can be passed on from generation to generation. And only great business leaders are able to create other business leaders. Only great entrepreneurs are able to create other entrepreneurs. And only people who have great service can create others of great service. So if you want to create a business, or if you want to create something that lasts, you need to be able to put a system in place to saying, And also what people get wrong is that they start a business that's solely dependent on them. When you create a business that's not solely dependent on you and you can be run by other people when you're not there, then you have a business. And if you can run from one generation to the next generation, then it can last for a legacy. And if you look at the biggest businesses now, you've got your Googles, your Facebooks, your Apples, your Walmarts, and you've got your Discoveries. You've got all these businesses. They are built to last. One of the books that I cited is Jim Collins' Built to Last, and some of the characteristics that they use there. And one of the characteristics that they have there is they have the long-term view. This thing of instant gratification is not going to be beneficial to us and the country as a whole, and especially the younger generation want things now: instant Instagram stories, WhatsApp stories, instant coffee, instant noodles. Want things instant. But anything that is of value is something that is going to have to last for through multiple generations. And that's something I had to reflect in my own life, in looking at my own family and saying, are we really focused on building the next generation? So it was a personal thing to me, and say, look, listen, my grandfather had businesses, but they're no longer here. But if he had the mindset that he was going to carry on for generations, might be in a different place. But the best time to plant a tree is now, and about 20 years ago. Best of the time to plant a tree is now. So it's very important to leave a lasting legacy, because you're not doing this thing for yourself.
Njabulo, do you think entrepreneurs are born or they can be made?
A bit of both. A bit of both. Some people are just gifted entrepreneurially. I met a lot of them. They're able to make money quite quickly. But it's also, you can also be made and also be born, because entrepreneurship has a number of skills that you can learn. It might take you longer than other people, but it's something that you can learn.
All right, and let's talk about the NJ podcast that you're doing, and what kind of content will you be looking to provide to your listeners?
Yeah, so I'm actually starting to shoot our first couple of episodes today.
Yeah.
So the podcast is based on the two books that I've been writing. So a personal passion point of myself is I've always wanted to understand what makes the difference between people who are successful versus people who are not. Why do people have passionate relationships and then people don't have passionate relationships? And I always have had a passion of, speaking to other people and listening to people and learning from them. So what this podcast aims to do is to bring people together from all walks of life, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're an author, you're a speaker, or you're a mother, you're a father. I want to understand what makes you tick, what is your definition of success. The tagline, which is my favorite tagline now, is success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So we'll be sharing insights from the most some interesting people to say, what is your story? Why are you here? Where are you from? Where are you going? And then I'll be sharing personal narrations and thoughts and ideas about success, personal development, leadership, and business.
So there clearly is a link between your two books, Inspired Success and, of course, Treat Yourself Like a Business. In order for us to achieve greater heights, that first step is always the most difficult. I've heard from people who've started businesses. How do we use the models that you have outlined in both your books to help us take that first step and that first leap into business? Yeah,
so the first thing that you need to start with, well, from what I've found, I'll take you through the research process on how I started to write the first book, Inspired Success. I was so passionate about the question because I had felt like a failure. Multiple times I'm like, I'm going to find out what success really is. And I went to every single personal development, leadership, finance seminar that I could find and get my hands on. Spoke to people from all walks of life, CEOs, entrepreneurs, business people. And then I read hundreds of books on the topic, and then I started to put them into a framework that makes it easy for people to remember and to be practical, because some people get a bad rap to saying, oh, you've given me advice, but what am I going to do come Monday morning? The very first thing that you understand is to understand yourself. That is the hardest thing, to be truthful to yourself and to really understand yourself and your highest values. Are you living a life because your parents said you must live it, or are you living a life that's something that you actually want to live? And the very first thing is to understand what your highest values are, really understand what success is, and understand what is painful to you, really, because your pain points, it will define your passion. There's a chapter titled Pain Causes Change, and all major good big movements have started from a pain point. They say it's painful for me to live without this thing in my life, so I'm going to make sure that it exists. And then you have to start living with your why. Find your own personal purpose and your own truth. You have to understand yourself first before you can go out there, and that is the very first step, because once you really understand yourself and you can deconstruct yourself and you can be true to yourself, then that's the very first step. Then you can say, now I'm going to start building a business. Now I'm going to go into a world of entrepreneurship. That's the first thing.
All right, Njabulo, that first step, you've given that to us. I'm going to allow our viewers to get themselves the book. Don't want you giving away all your secrets. And then they can get some more of your insights. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, that is Njabulo James Nkosi. He's an author, the author of Inspired Success, his first book that was released in 2017, and his latest one is titled You Are a Business, Treat Yourself Like One. We're going to take a quick break to stay with us here on Morning Live.